On show 428, a giant bath for a burning BMW, a merger that could make an EV powerhouse, and the latest challenge for the VW IDR. All those stories and many more coming up on today's podcast. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or indeed good evening. In fact, wherever you're listening around the world, welcome to EV News Daily, Thursday, 28th of March edition. My name is Martyn Lee, and I've been through every EV story that I can find today and picked out the best ones I think are going to save you the most time today. As always, the ultimate time saver is myev.com. If you are buying or selling EVs in the USA, check out myev.com. It's the first of its kind, and it's custom made for people like you and I. So a developing story here in the UK today. I talk a lot about the carrot and the stick when it comes to getting people to consider or even buy an EV. What's needed to persuade people into EVs? Well, we have the carrot here in the UK. That would be £3,500 off a brand new EV. That's the incentive. And I talk a lot about Norway, the most successful country in the world for EV adoption. They use the stick a fair bit, hitting people with penalties when they buy fossil cars, to spend a lot more money. In some cases, 100% of the cost is added on top if you're buying a dirty diesel. So today here in the UK, there's a story about putting up the tax that is on petrol to push people into considering alternatives. That story breaking at the moment as I record this, more on the show tomorrow. Well, the Daimler-owned Smart brand and smart cars are like the Smart 4.2 and the Smart 4.4, something which hasn't been a huge commercial success, and yet they just keep investing in it. More recently, they've been electrifying it as well. It's most famous for making small cars, and it's now being given a new lease of life. Daimler's willing to give the brand one more shot by teaming up with Lotus and Volvo owner Geely to transform Smart into a pure electric brand. Announced today, the deal involves Daimler and Geely in a 50-50 joint venture in China, where a new factory is going to be built. That new factory will handle production of zero-emissions models branded Smart, says Adrian Padenot for Motor1.com today. Well, these future cars are going to be styled by Mercedes, but engineered and made by Geely, more cheaper in China, with the first models scheduled to hit the market globally in 2022. Interestingly, aside from the ditching of the combustion engines altogether, and in some countries, Smart already has been pure EV, by the way, but now the whole brand is going electric. It's also going to expand into what's called the B segment. In the next decade, it's going to bring us compact cars from up until now, Smart, which has been very famous for little cutesy A-segment city cars, 2 seats or 4 seats, but definitely nothing that you would call a big family car. Dieter Zetsche is the chairman of the board of management of Daimler AG, head of Mercedes-Benz cars, said this, and I quote, "For more than 2.2 million customers, Smart represents a pioneer in urban mobility. Based on this success story, we look forward to further enhancing the brand with Geely, a strong partner in the EV segment. We'll jointly design and develop the next generation of smart electric cars that combine high-quality production and known safety standards for sale in both China and globally," end quote. Let me pick apart a couple of things I thought were super interesting in there. Firstly, the strengthening relationship between Mercedes and Geely, and Dieter Zetsche made a direct reference to that, further enhancing the brand with Geely. And then he also talks about safety, and that's something that I see occasionally, but not too much, about Chinese cars having lower safety standards. So interesting that he went out of his way to say it'll combine high-quality production, Mercedes design, but made in China, but known safety standards for sale globally. So addressing a couple of issues there that may well be showing up in their consumer research or their insights as being a possible worry for its consumers if their cars are not being made in Germany, or at least in a market not China, but it's still a Mercedes brand. Looks like Smart has a bright future. Good luck. Well, BMW are building their Mini here in the UK, and that is despite the story of the moment. You can't move anywhere here in the UK right now for Brexit, leaving the European Union. It's frankly, whichever side of the debate you're on, it's a mess. Our elected politicians can't agree. They had votes last night even on 8 different subjects, from going back to asking the electorate again what we all think should happen, to scrapping the whole thing completely. And none of the 8 options got any support. So we're back to square one. And so, the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders, which is a big body here in the UK, of course the motor industry is pretty big, has been saying this is all doom and gloom. But despite all of that, car makers saying they're going to be pulling out of Britain when Brexit happens, BMW is actually pushing ahead with plans to make all-electric cars here in the UK. According to Automotive News Europe, BMW isn't planning to implement any major changes to any of its plans in the UK. That includes the Oxford factory, which is now earmarked for electric Mini assembly, says InsideEVs.com today. Now, the manufacturer is anticipating 0 to 5% tariffs if we leave the EU. By the way, this is kind of boring economic stuff, but if we leave our trading bloc without an agreement, we go on to WTO or World Trade Organization tariffs if there's no deal agreed. And so BMW don't seem to think that a 5% tariff for goods made in the UK and exported massively changes their business model. It's good. It means they weren't working on razor-thin margins. BMW's Chief Executive Officer, Harald Kruger, has warned, however, that BMW could still move production to countries like the Netherlands at some point in the future if there are further problems. The first electric Mini has been slated to begin production later this year and will become available worldwide, including the US. Now, there's a possibility the brand could become electric only in the US in a bid to boost sales. Interesting idea. The Mini Electric looks good, great size, great tech, but unfortunately underneath the skin, not the latest tech, the latest 5th generation BMW powertrains, which will be in their next generation cars, not being used in the new Mini. So slightly kind of current tech, as it were, in a car that isn't even on sale yet, which is disappointing because by the time that's been out a couple of years, it probably will be quite yesterday. Staying with BMW, but this time one that decided to, by the looks of it, eat itself. A tweet from the fire department in the Netherlands said this, and I quote, "This morning, an electric car started to smoke in a showroom. The employees of the garage and the fire brigade acted quickly to drive the car outside. Because it's an electric car, inventive action was necessary. The car is immersed in a container of water. Because extinguishing it in the normal way is difficult with these cars, the car will remain in the water for 24 hours. End tweet. That's a translation, by the way, from the tweet that was sent out by the fire department in the Netherlands. Now, I should add here, by the way, the car was wheeled outside of the showroom and then craned into a giant bath. How big this bath is, let me try and explain it in audio form. So, you know a shipping container? Imagine a shipping container that goes on the back of a truck, like basically that size, but without the top. So I don't know why one of those was in the yard of the auto showroom, but there was one of those in the yard, handy, and for some reason it was full of water. And so and a crane was handy, right? That's a coincidence. So they picked the car up and dunked it in a giant bath. If anyone listening is looking for a slightly wet BMW i8, I know who to put you in contact with. Well, Chris Bruce at Motor One raises a good point. It's not clear whether it's the fire department's usual reaction to an EV fire. Who has a crane and a giant tank of water? Not very convenient. Plus, if the BMW was already in flames, what crane driver is going to opt to pick that up and put it in to the bath? Doesn't seem very safe. Not clear whether it was the usual reaction or not, but an interesting solution. Tesla's own advice, by the way, is to douse an EV fire in something like 3,000 gallons of water. I think that's their instruction to the fire departments that they have to liaise with. Next, let's talk the fully electric VW ID.R. This is the single-seater sports car, crazy performance, took on Pikes Peak and smashed it, sometimes called the VW ID.R Pikes Peak Racer. But it's not just about Pikes Peak. This is about finding new places to go very fast on electric power as a bit of a halo effect on VW's electric cars, taking on now more special challenges. Later this year, in September, Romain Dumas, who is the driver, the French driver of the car, is back behind the wheel. This car's got 500 kilowatts of power, and he's going to be doing the China Challenge on Tiananmen-Shan Big Gate Road. It's a unique stretch of tarmac, and it features 99 corners. Now, many of these are loop-back corners. If you haven't seen pictures of this road, it's one of those, it looks like a postcard, but it's one of those winding roads that goes up the outside of a mountain with sheer drops. And they're going to be going up this rather quickly. It winds its way up the Tiananmen Mountain, which is 1,500 kilometers southwest of Beijing. No official record actually exists for the 11-kilometer mountain road. Not accessible to public transport, Volkswagen China is going to run a competition prior to the record attempt in which participants can set their own virtual time. And then Romain Dumas will attempt to better the time of the fastest participant under real conditions. He'll do that in September. Well, the VW IDR set two famous hill climbs, the Pikes Peak and then Goodwood Festival of Speed, which is back in July in the UK, by the way. The IDR is powered by two electric engines. It does 0 to 62 in 2.2 seconds. And before going to China, it's going to do, they're going to set their sights on a new lap record for any electric car. They're going to be setting a new lap record at the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Okay, moving on to Mercedes-Benz and something a lot slower but carries a lot more people. In Germany, Berlin Transport Authority has received the first of 15 all-electric buses from Mercedes-Benz, the e-Citaro buses, says InsideEVs.com. The other thing that Mercedes-Benz e-Citaro is good for is a rather large battery in the bus, 243 kilowatt hours. That's more than 10 times the size of my EV. It's good for 150 k's, about 93 miles if you're doing those city routes. It's good news. This is good news, by the way, but let me add context. Last autumn, BVG, the Berlin Transport Authority, placed an order for 950 buses. Yeah, right. Emissions buses. They call them low emissions buses, but still, it's the largest single order ever for Europe's best-selling city bus. At the same time, they also ordered 15 full electrics. So when you read that, I was looking into this, what's the order? Although they call it low emissions buses, I don't think it says 950 all-electric buses. It says 15 all-electric buses. Good news, but more work to do. Let's go to Twitter now, where Elon Musk has been joining in conversations, seemingly at random, and a Twitter user who is at Ram Lover. Let me explain. The Dodge Ram is an off-road pickup truck, if you didn't know, by the way, and thought that was a somewhat curious Twitter handle, almost slightly dodgy. Anyway, at Ram Lover, I wouldn't search for that phrase, by the way, on Google. Who knows what would come back? Says this: you would be physically fatigued if you tried to haul 12,000 pounds of steel beams like I do with my Dodge Ram. My Dodge Ram is 2019's Motor Trend Truck of the Year. Well, Elon Musk noticed that and dived into the conversation with this. £12,000? How puny. Do you construct children's toys? So, following that tweet, you can pretty much read into that the Tesla not semi-truck, but the Tesla truck they're making, that'll go up like the Dodge Ram and the Ford F-150, will eat £12,000 towing for breakfast and do a lot more. Rumours are, by the way, that the truck has been Elon's project, and things like the Model Y and even the semi-truck, he has been not so much less involved with, but the truck is his passion project. The Model Y is basically a slightly bigger Model 3. There was some creativity involved, but from some angles, the Y looks like the 3, and it uses all the bits as well. So there's not too much that they can... and that's a good thing, by the way. That's not a criticism. It's exactly what it should have been. There are those rumours, though, that Elon's getting very involved in the truck, and that's why he is tweeting about it. Back here in Europe, a part of the VW group is SEAT. They're the Spanish bit of VW. And they're going to include 6 electric cars in their new strategy, the electric version of the Mi, the MII, or the MiI, or the Mi. Yeah. And the Elborn are going to be their first 2 fully electric cars, while the new generation Seat Leon and Tarraco are going to feature plug-in versions. The Cupra, which is nice, by the way, nice and quick. The Cupra Leon and the Cupra Formentor will have a plug-in version as well. The Seat president, Luca De Meo, announced today at the company's annual media conference that its new crossover will be unveiled, that was unveiled at Geneva. It's going to be built at someone called the Martorell factory. The first time in the history of the company, Seat is developing its own platform in collaboration with its owners VW. We talk about the MEB platform. that VW have, that the ID is being built on, that a lot of cars will be built on there, are making a smaller version of that platform on which multiple vehicles will sit, and the goal of that platform is to develop affordable EVs. You could argue that that's the one thing that's kind of missing at the moment from the market, is truly mass market, really affordable, good mileage EVs, because if you go small, smaller battery, no range, but still, even though small city cars are still quite pricey in the grand scheme of things. That's great news. Well done, SEAT and its owners, VW. Over in China, the GAC company, or GAC New Energy Automobile, to give it its full name, it's fully owned by GAC, announced their new upcoming all-electric car. It's called the Ion, and it's going to be in the market in May 2019. Do you want one? Do you live in China? Well, you'll need to be, says Mark Kane at InsideEVs.com. The car's been compared to the Model 3. It's about the same size. It has the very latest battery cells and battery chemistry. So, lithium-ion battery cells used in cars, we call them NCM or NMC, and nickel, manganese and cobalt. And by increasing the nickel and the proportion of cobalt and manganese, it can solve some of the issues around EVs with mining those materials, but also it makes it more efficient as well in terms of the battery, and they're using a new battery cell chemistry. So 8-part, they're called NCM 811. 8 parts nickel and then 1 part the other 2. That's the background to this new battery capacity chemistry. It's being made by CATL, Contemporary Amperex Technology Limited. The battery size in this new car is almost 60 kilowatt hours. That'll do 317 miles. In real world, though, if it's 220, that'll put you in the right ballpark. It's less than the Model 3, but it's a pretty good mileage for using this new battery chemistry from CATL. And finally, let's talk Renault or Renault. And partnerships among the world's leading automakers are increasing because of technology, and mergers can help, certainly, if you're a little bit behind in EVs, can help share some knowledge. The latest report from Automotive News Europe suggests that Renault and Nissan, which have an alliance already, could well be merging with Fiat Chrysler Automobiles, FCA. This would be huge news if it happens. There's been rumours around FCA being bought and merging for a long time now. The information comes from a report in the Financial Times. A subscription required to that's behind a paywall, by the way, but it does cite anonymous sources in the know on the deal. According to Motor1.com, during the tenure of the previous boss, Sergio Marchionne, there were several rumours around mergers and purchases. Normally Chinese automakers involved, though this time Renault-Nissan / Nissan-Renault, looking like they could be securing their future with a merger. So that will enable the technology that's in the company, that electrification technology, to go to a company that is actually kind of behind. So that's great news, because FCA is fully behind. Right, finally, and very quickly, Frederick sent me a link to a site in Norway tracking VIN numbers of the new Audi e-tron, and there's been 741 e-trons registered so far in Norway this month, 616, and you would have to think that some of those must be in customers' hands by now, and Frederick sent me that link to this website because he knows I'm slightly obsessed with these e-trons. Are any of them in customers' hands yet, or are they all being registered to dealers or to Audi members of staff? I'd love to know. I'm searching for YouTube videos of someone going, here's my new e-tron, because the Audi e-tron looks like a great car. Have any customers got it yet, though? Real customers. I'd love to know. Thank you very much to myev.com for setting our question of the week. Keep your comments coming in today, and as we head towards the weekend, it's this. If EVs are going to cost more, at least in the short term, how much more of a premium are you willing to pay, if any, to get your hands on an EV? Please email me, hello@evnewsdaily.com. Use the comments on YouTube and Facebook and myev.com as well. Time for the endy bit. There are 209 patrons of the show who keep me going. Thank you very much. If you'd like to get the previous podcasts, there are 427 of those. And get the new ones first and free and automatically by hitting subscribe in your podcast app or on YouTube. If you hit subscribe, it means you get them first and free and automatically without having to think about it. It just makes it... If you hit subscribe, it's free. And we all love free stuff. If you want to catch up with me on the socials, just search EV News Daily. Come and have a chat. I'm always around. In the meantime, have a wonderful day. I'll catch you tomorrow. We're looking forward to the weekend. A Saturday special's on the way. We're on location You'll like this one. It's new charging technology. There's a tease for you. Anyway, in the meantime, I leave you with my usual reminder. Remember, there's no such thing as a self-charging hybrid.